Hey, Coach. I guess just how was practice today, and are you seeing what you want out of your team so far?
It was one of those days that we needed. We were able to get up and down a lot. That's the one thing that we've been able to do is build up from a progression standpoint so that we can not overdo it, just so we can jump into being into game shape. I don't think there's any one way to do it. And so from that standpoint, it was good to be able to progress from playing 1-on-1 and 3-on-3 to playing in some 4-on-4 and 5-on-5. So we had another good day. Obviously, there's some things that we have to get better at, and I said it I think yesterday with our communication on defense. I thought that was a bit better today, and I think as we get into game shape, we're going to see a lot of the work that's been put in from video and one-on-one stuff that we've done the last month or so. We'll start to see that, or those residual effects, when we start to play 5-on-5 a bit more.
Okay, Kellen Olson, Arizona Sports. You have the next question. Dwayne Rankin will follow. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach. It's kind of hard to believe, thinking back at the start of the season, where Mikal was offensively and the player he came into the last 2 months of the season. You talked a lot about him just getting that one bucket in transition and building off that, but he just built off a couple of games and just really got himself going. What'd you see from him in like the middle of the season that got him to turn towards the right direction?
Well, as it relates to the first 65 games and his progression, he just put in a ton of work with Darko, and he went through the ups and downs of being a second-year player with expectations, and he wasn't gifted any minutes, and I was pretty tough on him to start the season, which may have helped, it may not have, but I think he's a diligent, conscientious player, and we tried to simplify it for him. If you can get out in transition and pick up a bucket, it makes everything else a lot easier. And then you add to that his defense and the intangibles. You just started to see this guy who was not just playing better, but he just had so much more confidence on the floor. And we hope that he becomes that guy with the starting group. That's something that I've thought about a lot. Not quite sure how that's going to work out, but I believe he has every intangible and talent and quality to be a glue guy in that starting lineup.
Okay, next is Dwayne Rankin, Arizona Republic, followed by Gina Mizell. Dwayne?
Yes, thanks, DC. Coach, see that Coach Greer and Coach Blake are no longer on the staff. Just curious the how and why they're no longer on the staff and what they brought to you and your staff in that first year.
Yeah, the particulars and the details of it all, I don't want to get into. Organizations go through change, and there are times where guys have to make decisions that are best for them and their families, and so it's a tough loss for us to not have those guys, but those decisions have to be made, and as a leader, I have to respect what's best for the organization and best for individuals. And so I miss those guys. At the same time, I've been in this long enough to know that you have to adapt, and what they brought, especially the first 65 games and laying the foundation of our team and our program, was invaluable. I've known Stevie since he was, a really young player, not quite a rookie, but I had him in Portland, and I've watched him progress into a really good NBA player, and seen his family grow up, and a lot of other boring stories that you don't want to hear. And the same with Larry. Larry really organized our program behind the scenes, and so we're thankful for their contributions. at the same time, everybody has to adapt in this league.
Okay, next is Gina Mizell. She'll be followed by Tressa Tudrick, Channel 3, Channel 5. Gina?
Hey, Monty. I feel like it's sort of my turn to ask this type of question, so I will ask it in this way. Do you anticipate by the time either you start scrimmages or the actual games on the 31st, do you anticipate that the full roster will be in Orlando and able to go, or is that still up in the air?
I see all the gray hair. I'm a bit longer in the tooth, so I'm hopeful that we're playing at a high level, and I'm not going to talk about who's here, who's not here. You guys can do your own analysis based on who's tweeting and face chatting and whatever all that stuff. My hope is that we're just playing at a high level. It's a tough one for me because medically I can't talk about stuff, and that's where I just have to leave it. So I don't, you guys know me. I don't ever want to be rude to you guys. I understand you have a job to do, but there's a limit on what I can talk about.
Okay, Tressa Tudrick, Channel 3, Channel 5. You have the floor. You'll be followed by Dave King, Bright Side of the Sun. Tressa?
Coach, thank you for your time this afternoon. Talking a little bit more about Mikal and just kind of what is he like with other players, and how have you seen him grow just as a player in the sense, and who does he get along with, and just his confidence level and how that's progressed? A little bit more on that.
Well, I don't know anybody he doesn't get along with. He has that personality, and a lot of times you have guys like that and they're just agreeable to everything, so they get along with everybody. That's not Mikal. Mikal has an edge to him. I think guys respect the heck out of him because he competes every day, and he gets the toughest matchup every time I put him on the floor. He makes the right plays. As it relates to his progression, you saw a guy who was in a championship program in college. He gets drafted pretty high. So he goes from one coach, one system to another coach. And then here comes another coach in his second year. So that was a lot of change for him. And I think it took him a minute to adapt to all of that change. And he and I had a really good talk in Memphis last year. And we just, I just kind of gave him what I expected of him. And I listened to what he wanted to do as a player also. And he and Darko have been in the lab a ton, but I felt like once he could focus on what I wanted from him and then I could listen to him, I felt like that gave him some confidence, kind of gave him a bit of a template that he could follow. And you just saw a guy just get more and more confidence. And I want him to be who he is and who you guys saw this first 65, but I also want him to be more aggressive with the ball on offense because he makes the right plays. Even if he makes a mistake every now and again, I think that's going to help him get to the next level as far as his confidence is concerned. So we all value Mikal. He's a guy that plays on both ends. He has leadership qualities, and, he's a bit of a glue guy in the locker room and on the floor.
Okay, Dave King, Bright Side of the Sun. There'll be follow-up questions from Kellen Olson, Arizona Sports, after that.
Hey, Monty. I'll give you another chance to talk about the guys you can talk about. You got your backup point guards. You got about 4 backup point guards on the team that are all ready and raring for a shot at playing minutes. So between Cam and Javon Carter and Ty Jerome, and you got Ellie there as well. What have you seen so far, and what are you looking for in these scrimmages that are coming up? Because you've got 3 scrimmages in the next week. What do you want to see out of these guys? And each one might be different.
Yeah, it's a great question. You want to see somebody grab a hold of that backup point guard spot and say, it's mine, nobody's taking it, and, I should be starting. Like, that's what you want from a backup point guard. It's a guy that can run both teams. He's a bit of a connector, and, up until this point, we haven't had that. Ricky's been the guy for us in that starting spot, and now we're just, in these next few games and practices because we're going to get after it and be allowed to compete. I want to see somebody grab a hold of the reins and take that spot and, you know, every day command the respect that it deserves. So, you know, we haven't seen that yet, and I'm hopeful that we will in our next practices and in our 5-on-5 sessions and in these scrimmages.
2 follow-up questions, Coach. The first from Kellen Olson, Arizona Sports, then Dwayne Rankin, Arizona Republic. Kellen, go ahead.
Hey, Monty, Mikal has gone through tweaks in his jumper since his rookie year. How have you approached that? I know Darko has had a lot to do with the recent success for him, but for him, especially as a guy who in college was an excellent three-point shooter and then just had to kind of go through tweaks here as he extended the range in the league. How'd you go about it as a coach?
I've had very little to do with that. You know, I've talked to Darko about it. I've watched those guys, you know, the progression with him, showing him on film what he did at Villanova and just trying to get him to see it and get him a rhythm. And so from that standpoint, I think that's been, you know, more Darko and Mikal just spending a lot of time talking about it and talking about his footwork and his hand placement before he even gets the ball, so that there's an easier transition to his release point. And he had a bit of a hitch that, you know, had to be worked out, and he's done a really good job with that. And then they've just gotten a ton of reps, and that's something that every shooter has to do every day. And so he's moving in a good place, the right direction. I believe he's going to be a guy that we can rely on night in and night out to play off of Ricky and Book and DA and be able to not just knock down shots, but have the confidence because he has knocked down shots to get to the paint and make plays, whether he's finishing at the rim or finding guys off of his dribble penetration.
Next question comes from Dwayne Rankin, Arizona Republic.
Thanks, DC. On the first exhibition scrimmage or whatever we're calling these games, saw where they're going to have 10-minute quarters instead of 12, and talked about, you know, not overtaxing bodies and that teams don't have their full roster, and that's some of the rationale behind it. What do you think about 10-minute quarters for that first exhibition instead of the 12-minute? Will that matter at all?
Yeah, I like the idea of the build-up. I was hopeful that we do that for a couple of games, to be honest with you, just to, you know, shorten the time on the floor, and especially if teams didn't have a full complement on their roster, so you don't tax guys. But I'm glad we have one game that allows for us to build up. I haven't asked the question yet, but the first thing I thought about was how many timeouts were we going to have if we're only going to have 40 minutes instead of 48. So it does affect the way you call your timeouts, because there'll be a different break in play as opposed to a normal 48-minute game. But I'm hopeful with the 5-on-5 scrimmages we have in practice and the 3 games that we'll get to play before the regular season restarts, that our guys can get a good rhythm and get into NBA game shape.
Coach, we have one final question from Paul Richardson, the Sports Cave. Go ahead, Paul.
Hey, Coach, just wanted to see if you had time or if you thought about reflecting on John Lewis passing last night as a civil rights leader and what he brought to this country and to this world in that movement.
I mean, when you look at his life, ever since I could remember Mr. Lewis, I remember him as somebody who sacrificed for other people, whether it was marches, politically, using his position to be a voice for those who couldn't speak for themselves. And I think the term that I've heard in reference to him was he was the conscience of Congress, and that's something that, you know, is a great title and a great way to be remembered, and his ability to bring people together. And when you just look at, if you just did a cursory look of his bio, you would just you would see it. And so when I heard about him passing, it's one of those moments that gave me pause. And his voice, you know, if you've ever heard him speak, his voice is one of those voices that sticks with you. And the things that he said with that voice, it inspired you know, to be able to listen to someone who's been through so much and done so much for other people. And being an African-American activist, in the true sense of the word, you know, he wasn't just for African Americans, he was for all people. And that's something that inspires me. He realized the plight of African Americans in this country, but he also understood that we're only going to be the best country that we can be when all people are treated with human dignity that we all deserve. And, you know, sad to hear him pass, but also inspired, and many other words I could use, that I was, you know, around to hear him talk, and I was able to see the things that he did in my, you know, my short life.
That's all for today, Coach. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Ooh, sweet mask.
All right. Good afternoon, Mikal.
How you doing?
All right, my man. All right. The first question today is going to come from Tressa Tudrick, Channel 3, Channel 5. She'll be followed by Dwayne Rankin, Arizona Republic. Tressa, go ahead with your question.
Thank you. Hey, Mikal. Thanks for talking with us today. We were just talking to Monty about you, and I'm curious what your relationship is like with him and how he's helped you in your basketball game and influenced how the last couple, you know, how he shifted your game, so to speak.
I mean, yeah, he did it a lot. Just starting off from the beginning. Just remember I wasn't playing that much in the beginning as much as I thought I should, and just kind of told me something, just like, you know, wanted me to work a little bit harder. So kind of got my head to, after practice, off days, come and keep working, and then I got to the position I was at before the season ended. But no, he helped me progress my game confidence-wise and just learning more about it, and life too. Just big component about life.
All right. Next up is Dwayne Rankin. He'll be followed by Kellen Olson, Arizona Sports. Dwayne, go ahead.
Thanks, DC. Mr. Bridges, seeing obviously you've been, you know, tweets and Instagram posts about the social justice movement. Just A, wanted to get your thoughts on that, and then B, if you've chosen a name to put on the back of your jersey or a message to put on the back of your jersey, what is it?
No, yeah, I definitely been talked about it. A lot of my friends, close friends, like Eric Pascal, Phil Booth, we talk about it all the time. They're big into it as well. Just something that has to be, you know, known, and we're going to keep talking about it. And for the back of the jersey, I chose Respect Us, and just showing out, you know, for African Americans out there, just, you know, respect us as human beings. So I have that on the back of my jersey for sure.
All right. Next is Kellen Olson, Arizona Sports. He'll be followed by Cody Cunningham with the Suns. Go ahead, Kellen.
Hey, Mikal, good to see you. Monty talked about your relationship and just working with Darko specifically on your jumper. What's that been like over the course of the season, to not only like the relationship with Darko, but seeing the progress you have over the season?
I mean, a lot. I mean, it helped me out growth throughout the whole season. It was tough too, just because trying to change shot in season, mid season, you have to be confident with it as well. So just a lot of time, a lot of off days coming in, just starting from ground one, just trying to get it better, just keep progressing. But I mean, I'm with them every single day. Even before this, with them every single day in the gym, and just trying to help me get better.
Hey, Cody Cunningham with the Suns has the next question, followed by Cameron Cox, Channel 12. Go ahead, Cody.
Hey, Mikal, I was just wondering, what's been the biggest adjustment for you thus far with life inside the bubble?
Probably, I think the biggest thing for me, I like being inside anyway. I mean, besides just working out and, you know, going outside to go work out, I'm always inside. So I really have no problem with that. I think just, you know, I'm used to going out to dinner and like, you know, I love Chipotle, so I always get that all the time. So that's a little bit adjustment, but I mean, I like it. It kind of reminds me of college. We stay in a hotel after every game, and it kind of gets you closer together and just, you know, just be together at all times.
Okay, we have Cameron Cox, Channel 12 up next. He'll be followed by Gina Mizell. Go ahead, Cameron.
Mikal, hope everything is going well, buddy. Two-parter here, I guess. No Chipotle while you're in the bubble. And then second, what are some things you've done outside of your room? Have you got a chance to play? I saw some of your teammates playing spike ball. Looks like Monty caught some fish. What about you?
No, so I want to. I actually talked to Coach Monty about fishing, and he went yesterday at 5, and he told me that they're gonna go fishing. I told him like I need a day or two to prepare myself, like meant to prepare to go fishing, because I fished when I was like a kid a couple of times, but not like the biggest fan. So I told him I didn't at least know like a day notice. So but no, I definitely want to join that spike ball. I play spike ball a lot at the beach, so I'm ready for whenever we got an off day to go get that.
All right, Gina Mizell, you have the floor. Dave King, Bright Side of the Sun, you are next. Gina?
Hey, Mikal. I wanted to go back to your shot for just a second. And was it tough after the long break to get right back into the form that you guys had worked on during the season, or did that come right back to you, or did you have to sort of reconfigure it again, or just what was that process like, just because normally you're not going to have a weird break like that where you're not shooting all the time?
Yeah, just actually took kind of quick, not too long. Just we was in there 5 times a day, so 5 times a week. But it just naturally got there just as time went on. But it didn't take that long. Just kind of developed and just step by step, and it was good. Probably like after a week or something.
Okay, next we have Dave King, Bright Side of the Sun. He will be followed by Sierra Santos, Channel 10. Go ahead, Dave.
Hey, Mikal. Excuse me. During that break, it looked like you bulked up a little bit. You were able to lift some weights when you were getting off the court and all that. I don't know if that's true, but it looks like that. Does it bother you that Cam Johnson's getting all the pub for adding his 10 or 12 pounds and playing spike ball, you know, and all that? Or who else has changed since you last saw them? Because you didn't see hardly anybody for 4 months.
Yeah. No, it doesn't bother me. My boy Cam, I mean, he works hard. That's my guy, and he can take all the pub he wants. I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm kind of jealous because they won the spike ball tournament, so I'm ready for revenge for that. So that's the only thing I'm upset about. But on that, no, everybody looks great. Definitely like DA, I think was probably the biggest person I see was change your body, just movement, just moving quicker, and like he already kind of moved like a guard before this, but he seemed like he got a little bit more quicker and explosive. So I think he's probably the biggest one that stands out.
All right, Mikal, your final question of the afternoon comes from Sierra Santos, Channel 10. Go ahead, Sierra.
Hi there. Monty has said you guys are really fiery and high energy in the gym. How eager are you to see where you guys are at against competition going into this exhibition game? And how aggressive do you think you guys are going to come out to face some competition outside of yourselves?
Definitely going to be competitive. Today practice, we scrimmaged and a lot of energy, you know, a little bit of trash talking and just fueling each other up. So when we play somebody else, and we're brothers, so we're going to love each other. So when we go out there, I think we're just going to bring that intensity out there against them and, you know, just play as hard as we can.